Leo soul, radiant and powerful, this is your moment of divine warning. This is not a drill. You're being watched. Not in fear, not in paranoia, but with spiritual intensity. The universe has eyes on your every move right now, and not because it's punishing you, but because you're being positioned on the chessboard of destiny. Something or someone is lurking, and your light is stirring their shadow. This week, from July 22nd to 28th, your energy, your choices, and your silence matter more than ever. There's a reason you found this video, and it's not random. In fact, nothing about this moment is accidental. Maybe you've been feeling unsettled. Maybe you've sensed that someone has been watching, measuring, planning. Or maybe you've just felt a deep inner knowing that something is shifting in your world. This is your confirmation. You were drawn here because your spirit recognized the signal before your mind could name it. Let me ask you something. Have you been too visible lately? Too open? Too generous with your dreams, your light, your plans? Because this week, Leo, listen closely, is not the week to reveal. It is the week to protect. Protect your vision. Protect your silence. Protect your energy like a lion protects the pride. While Mercury lingers in post-retrograde shadow and the cosmic tides churn with karmic undertow, there's a test unfolding. Not of your strength, we already know you have that, but of your discernment. Will you know when to hold back? Will you feel when to speak and when to stay silent? Will you recognize the masked energy that pretends to support you, but secretly drains you? This isn't about fear. It's about wisdom. It's about understanding that even the sun needs nightfall to regenerate. Even the king of the jungle observes before he strikes. So today, let this video be your spiritual strategy session. You and I were going to walk through the energy of the week ahead. Not with panic, but with power. Not as victims, but as creators. The universe is watching, yes. But so are your ancestors. So is your future self. And they are whispering, prepare. Shield. Listen. Now, before we go further, I want to take a moment to thank you deeply. Your presence here matters. Every like, every comment you leave, every time you choose to subscribe, you're not just helping this channel grow. You're anchoring your place in a greater soul community. A family that sees you, believes in your purpose, and honors the light you carry. So if you're here and this message already resonates with something stirring inside you, don't scroll away. Leave a comment to confirm it. Write, I protect my light, and I choose to awaken. Because that moment of intention, that one click, may be the spark that shifts your path forward in ways you can't yet imagine. Stay with me through the end of this reading, Leo. Because what the universe is about to reveal is not just insight. It's your map. Let's begin. ChatGPT.noi. When we enter a week like this, Leo, we're not walking into ordinary time, we're stepping into a sacred pause. A moment between heartbeats. And in that silence, every gesture, every thought, every decision becomes amplified. This is not the time to strike, it is the time to breathe, to watch, to pull your energy inward like a lion crouched low in the tall grass, fully aware of what moves in the distance. There is a subtle rhythm to life that most people miss because they're too busy rushing to prove, to show, to defend. But you, Leo, you are being asked to master something deeper now, the art of strategic stillness. To know that not every truth needs to be spoken the moment it's realized. Not every idea needs to be shared the moment it's conceived. Just as a seed does not bloom the day it's planted, your visions need time beneath the soil of your silence to take root and gather strength. Right now, Mercury remains in its post-retrograde shadow, and that means communication is still walking on fragile ground. Even the most well-meaning conversation can be misunderstood. Even the most beautiful dream, spoken aloud too early, can be weakened by energy that is not ready to receive it. So instead of offering your power up for validation, preserve it like a sacred flame. Hold it close. Nurture it with your presence. There will come a time to roar, but this isn't it. Think of the great masters, the wisest teachers. They did not run toward every opportunity to speak or be seen. They chose their moments carefully. They watched the world not with suspicion, but with clarity. They knew that seeing clearly often requires stepping back, not forward. And so do you, this week. The eyes that are watching you now are not all filled with admiration. Some are curious, some are quietly envious, some are simply waiting for you to make the first move, not because they wish you well, but because they want to read your map before you finish drawing it. You must protect your blueprint, Leo. You must hold your cards so close that even the wind doesn't know what hand you're playing. There is a saying about the bow and arrow that sometimes we must be pulled back in order to be launched forward. This week, the pullback is happening. Not as punishment, but as preparation. The universe is giving you space, not to retreat in fear, but to lean into the kind of patience that transforms you from impulsive to intentional. This kind of patience is not passive. It's alert. It's attuned. It knows that restraint is not weakness, it's wisdom. And the lion who learns to wait is the lion who claims the hunt. Let yourself enter this space gently. Don't force clarity where there is fog. Don't chase validation in places that drain you. Instead, return to your breath. Observe. Sit with the knowing that your silence is not emptiness, it is a field where power matures. Remember, true power doesn't need to announce itself. It simply arrives, unshaken, when the moment is right. And when that moment comes, Leo, you will not hesitate. You will move with precision, because you honored the wait. You will speak with impact, because you chose your timing. And you will rise, not because others allowed it, but because you never once stopped preparing for the rise in your quiet hours. Let this be your practice now: stillness, strategy, and sacred silence. The lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinions of the jungle. He simply waits until the sun hits the right angle and then he moves. There are moments in life when the past begins to echo back, not as memory, but as movement. You feel it in the subtle way someone reappears, a message from an old connection, an unexpected offer wrapped in the language of reconciliation. But something within you, deeper than logic, older than instinct, pauses. It knows that not all returns are redemptive. Some are merely the unfinished business of karma circling back, asking, will you repeat the lesson or rise above it? This week, Leo, you may find yourself face to face with an old story dressed in new clothing. A financial opportunity that once slipped through your fingers. A reputation that was unfairly tainted. A relationship or alliance that ended in imbalance. Whatever form it takes, it's not coming back by chance. It's part of a larger balancing act, a cosmic unfolding that you've quietly been preparing for. Not with vengeance, but with clarity. The person or situation re-entering your field may carry the energy of Taurus, persistent but inflexible, or Scorpio, strategic but shadowed, or Sagittarius, charming but inconsistent in values. Don't focus too much on the name or face. Focus on the energy, on what it stirs in you. Is it peace or pressure? Often in life, the most important battles are not fought with confrontation, but with posture. The kind that comes from sitting still with yourself long enough to know your truth doesn't need to shout. This is one of those times. The temptation to react, to respond, to restore balance through action will be strong. But restraint is your most powerful response. Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. In teachings about inner mastery, it is often said, when someone harms you, they plant a seed. You can choose whether that seed grows into resentment or transformation. The true path is neither suppressing the hurt nor seeking revenge, it is simply not feeding the root. Let karma take care of what it began. You don't need to become the judge when the universe already knows the scale. This moment is not about reclaiming what was lost, it's about reclaiming the part of you that thought your value depended on it. What was taken was never bigger than what remains inside you. Your dignity, your light, your ability to walk forward without bitterness clinging to your steps. That is what makes you rich. That is what makes you whole. Be mindful of gestures disguised as generosity. Offers that feel like peace but smell of control. Apologies that come with expectations. You are not obligated to reopen doors just because someone knocked. Silence, too, is a boundary. And in silence, you preserve energy for what truly matters. Imagine a tree that has lost some branches to the storm. The storm passes. Someone returns, offering to glue the broken limbs back. But the tree has already begun to grow in new directions. Taller. Stronger. Rooted deeper than before. Would it need the broken limbs to feel complete? Or has it already become more whole by letting go? This is your invitation to trust in the quiet justice of life. To let the scales balance naturally without you needing to hold them. To let your presence be your answer, your calm be your closure. You are not here to chase fairness, you are here to embody it. Stand tall in your center. Breathe in your worth. And remember, no one can take from you what was truly meant for you. And what returns must now meet you at the level you've risen to. After navigating the emotional terrain of what's been taken and what's returned, it's easy to feel a tug between action and stillness, between speaking your truth and guarding your peace. This is the in-between space, what some might call a spiritual crossroads, but what in life is simply the pause before the pivot. Here, Leo, you are being handed not a sword to strike, but 3 keys. 3 quiet invitations to rise, not through noise, but through presence. And this week, those keys are not just symbolic. They are energetic doorways into your own power, reclaimed. The first key is strength, not the kind that demands recognition, but the kind that breathes beneath the surface. It is not forceful. It is not loud. It lives in the restraint not to react when provoked, in the softness that allows clarity to emerge. True strength isn't the roar, it's the stillness before it. It's in choosing not to engage with chaos, not because you are weak, but because your energy is too sacred to spend on battles that no longer define you. You become unshakable not by controlling the storm, but by remaining rooted as it passes. That is where your power lies, knowing your capacity to stay centered while everything around you tries to pull you off course. The second key is vision. The Two of Wands reminds you that strategy begins with distance. You must see beyond the immediate. It's not about rushing to the next movie, it's about understanding the entire board. Planning with awareness means not just asking, "What do I want?" but, "Where is this truly leading me?" You are not meant to settle into familiar roles, or repeat patterns disguised as progress. You are meant to break orbit and create something that reflects your future, not your fears. Take this week to write, to map, to imagine boldly but without yet stepping onto the stage. There is wisdom in holding your next move within, refining it in silence, until it is too powerful not to succeed. And the final key, perhaps the most Socrates, the High Priestess. She does not speak unless it's time. She does not explain unless it's essential. Her gift is knowing, and her knowing is not shaken by outside opinions. This is your call to trust your intuitive authority. You don't need to validate your path to anyone. You don't need to announce your readiness. When you know, you know. And when you act from that place of deep inner clarity, everything aligns, not because you pushed, but because you listened. The silence you hold now is not avoidance, it's protection. It is a cocoon around your next chapter, not yet ready to be seen by the world. Taken together, these three archetypes offer you more than survival this week, they offer mastery. Not through dominance, but through discipline. Not through noise, but through grace. And when you practice these energies, you become magnetic. People feel the difference. They may not be able to name it, but they'll sense that something within you has changed and that you are no longer easily moved. Repeat to yourself, as many times as you need. I do not need to prove anything. The light within me is already powerful enough to shift my entire destiny. This is not just a mantra. It's a declaration. A quiet roar. A reminder that you are no longer at the mercy of other people's perceptions. You are writing from a place of self-respect, rooted clarity, and timeless strength. And this week, that is more than enough. It's everything. Sometimes, what drains us isn't the chaos of life, but the quiet tug of something or someone we've allowed too close for too long. There's a heaviness we carry that doesn't belong to us, a tiredness that sleep doesn't heal. And no matter how much light we pour into others, we're left dimmer than before. This week, Leo, the message is gentle but firm. Not everyone in your space is meant to be in your energy. And not every connection is sacred just because it feels familiar. Energy, like breath, is subtle. It flows where intention goes. And if your attention is tied to someone who refuses to grow, who manipulates your compassion into obligation, then you're not sharing energy, you're leaking it. Some people don't want healing. They want access. They don't want understanding. They want control wrapped in the language of help. And they've learned that your heart, generous, bright, fierce in its loyalty, is the perfect place to hide their wounds without ever trying to mend them. But healing is never about carrying someone else's resistance. You can walk beside someone, but you cannot walk for them. When you find yourself constantly explaining, excusing, or sacrificing your peace to maintain a connection, it's not love. It's entanglement. And this week calls you to something clearer, a clean separation of self from story. You might not even realize how much you've been absorbing. The subtle guilt. The emotional responsibility. The way they twist their absence into your fault or their need into your duty. But your nervous system knows. Your sleep knows. Your silence after the call ends knows. This is why right now is the time to reclaim your energy. Cutting energetic cords isn't about punishing others. It's about telling yourself, I am not the source of someone else's salvation. And in that truth, there's peace. You begin to feel the weight lift when you allow space to replace obligation. You begin to return to yourself, layer by layer, not through anger, but through clarity. Use this week to practice energetic detachment. Not in haste, not in hatred, but with reverence for your own vitality. Journal what you've been holding that isn't yours. Light incense not to chase spirits away, but to signal your return to center. Sit quietly and feel where your body tenses when you think of certain people. That's where your energy has been intercepted. And if you can, hold a stone like obsidian or selenite while you breathe, letting the mineral structure remind you of how natural it is to ground, to clear, to realign. There is a teaching that says, the deepest compassion is allowing someone to suffer the consequences of their own choices, not because you wish them harm, but because you finally understand that shielding them from discomfort is preventing their growth. And in protecting them, you've been abandoning yourself. It's time to close that loop. To exit the cycle where you are the one overgiving, overextending, overfeeling while they remain unchanged. You are not their lesson. You are your own liberation. And sometimes, the most loving act is to walk away in full presence, without resentment, and without turning back. As you pull your energy back into yourself, something miraculous happens. You become lighter, clearer, stronger. You stop bleeding light into places that only wanted to live in your warmth without offering any of their own. And that's when you begin to attract differently, not from emptiness, but from fullness. Let this be your return. Not just to solitude, but to sovereignty. Your light deserves more than to be filtered through someone else's shadow. It deserves to expand freely. And you, Leo, are finally ready to stop apologizing for how bright you really are. After all the silence you've held, the boundaries you've redrawn, and the energy you've reclaimed, there comes a moment when the universe begins to respond. Not with noise or drama, but with subtle, powerful alignment. The kind of movement that doesn't knock at your door loudly, it opens it with grace, and waits for you to recognize that the support has been there all along. This week, that support arrives through 3 celestial allies, each carrying a distinct message: expansion, magnetism, and illumination. Jupiter, the great benefactor, stretches your perspective beyond limitation. It doesn't just offer growth in the material sense, though that too is very possible right now. More importantly, it opens your inner sky, asking you to look at your beliefs, your worldview, and the opportunities you've once considered too big or not for me. When Jupiter touches your field, it's a whisper that says, there's more. More potential, more learning, more abundance, more life. But the key to receiving it lies not in chasing it, but in making space. When we empty our hands of what no longer serves as you've begun to do, we make room for something greater to land. Jupiter doesn't reward hustle, it rewards readiness. Venus steps in as the energy of attraction. Not just romantic love, though you may find new magnetic connections forming, but a deeper kind of harmony. The harmony that draws people, opportunities, even wealth, toward you because you're radiating coherence. When your values align with your actions, and your actions stem from self-worth, Venus amplifies the field around you. She teaches that beauty isn't always in appearance, it's in balance. And as you realign with your boundaries and your light, you may notice how others begin to see you differently. But more importantly, you begin to see yourself differently, not as someone seeking approval, but as someone who has nothing to prove. Then there is the sun, your ruling force. And when the sun speaks, it doesn't whisper. It glows from the center of your being, reminding you who you are when everything else falls away. The sun brings not ego, but identity. Not attention, but purpose. It activates the purest form of your Leo nature, generous, visionary, courageous, and alive. But this time, the radiance is different. It's not performance. It's presence. A grounded knowing that you don't have to fight to be seen, you shine because you remember where you come from. To work with these energies, let color and texture be your allies. Gold isn't just decoration, it's frequency. Wear it not to impress, but to amplify. Red isn't just fire, it's vitality, a reminder of blood, will, and movement. White kissed with pink softens the heart space, inviting grace without vulnerability becoming weakness. And stones like citron, pyrite, and carnelian are more than minerals, they are memory. They carry the charge of light, boldness, and manifestation. Keep them close this week. Touch them when you feel uncertain. Let them be physical anchors to invisible truths. Numbers may also echo louder than usual. If 2 crosses your path, look for the mirror, relationships, choices, duality. 11 carries activation, a reminder that you are not walking alone. 17 brings renewal. 28 speaks of cycles. 36, of higher understanding. And 44, the master builder tells you this: you are no longer being prepared. You are now constructing. Let all of this remind you that you are not being asked to do this alone. The universe is not somewhere far away, watching with detachment. It is right here beneath your breath, behind your courage, within your choices, saying, now that you've cleared the noise, can you hear me better? Yes, Leo. You can. And what you hear next may just change everything. There are seasons in life when the heart becomes its own compass, no longer searching outward for validation, but turning gently inward for truth. Love, for many, is the most sought-after form of connection. But for you, Leo, this week brings a quiet and sacred redefinition of what love is allowed to mean. Not just the romantic gestures, not just the promises whispered in the night, but something more elemental: the alignment between your light and those who truly honor it. If you've been single, this isn't about loneliness anymore. Something in you has matured. The old ache, the old hunger to be chosen, to be seen by another, has softened, not because you've given up, but because you've remembered your own reflection. You're no longer running toward love as if it completes you. You're standing still, letting it come if it aligns, if it respects, if it's worthy. There is wisdom in that stillness. And power. The kind of power that doesn't need to chase, because it has already arrived within itself. For those of you in a relationship, the energy becomes more refined. Truth, if hidden, will surface. And not to punish but to clarify. If something has felt off, if your intuition has been whispering, if the space between words has felt louder than the words themselves, pay attention. Not in paranoia, but in presence. Because truth has its own way of ripening, and this week, it may fall right into your hands. And even if it hurts, even if it confirms what you didn't want to know, understand that what breaks now breaks for your clarity, not your collapse. There is a gentle principle in life that speaks of truth like the sun. It cannot be obscured forever. The clouds may veil it. The night may delay it. But when it rises, there's nothing that can stop its light. The same applies to you. If someone has been hiding, lying, manipulating the narrative, that light of yours, Leo, will expose it. Not through revenge, not through drama, but simply by being too luminous for the shadow to stay comfortable. This is your chance to step back and ask, does this connection mirror the love I give? Does it make me feel expanded or restricted? Does it support my growth or shrink it in silence? Love, in its truest form, is not performance, it is resonance. It doesn't take away your power, it reflects it back with reverence. And if what you're seeing now doesn't look like that, it may not be what you need to carry into the next version of you. Remember, Leo, the sun, your card, your cosmic signature, doesn't ask for approval. It just shines. It doesn't dim to make others comfortable. It doesn't filter itself for the sake of peace. It simply rises, again and again, offering warmth to those who stand in its truth and light. Anyone who attempts to dim you through silence, betrayal, or avoidance will eventually burn in the heat of your radiance. Not because you seek destruction, but because truth can't survive in spaces built on shadows. So this week, let truth come. Let it move through your heart like sunlight through glass, clarifying, revealing, warming, and even breaking where necessary. Trust that you will not lose what is meant for you by knowing the truth. What's real doesn't flee in the light. And what flees was never yours to begin with. Hold yourself with tenderness. Speak only when needed. And love from a place so whole that anyone not ready for that kind of fullness naturally falls away. This isn't loss. It's alignment. The beginning of love that mirrors not your wounds, but your worth. And that is the kind of love the sun promises, bold, clear, undeniable. Just like you. As you arrive at the end of this message, Leo, take a moment to breathe slowly, deeply, and let everything you've just heard settle into the space behind your heart. This was never meant to be just another horoscope. This was a reminder. A mirror. A quiet echo from the universe saying, you were never meant to dim your light to survive. And everything that unfolded throughout this video, every truth revealed, every shadow uncovered, every spark of recognition wasn't meant to scare you. It was meant to awaken you. You weren't warned to become fearful. You were called to become more aware, more intentional, more sovereign. Because this week, you're not being tested to prove your strength through resistance, but to reclaim your clarity through stillness. What if your silence is more powerful than any explanation you could ever give? What if your boundaries, held in peace, speak louder than confrontation? And what if the most magnetic thing you could do right now is simply be in full alignment with your truth? Ask yourself gently, what do I now see more clearly that I used to ignore? Where has my energy been seeping through invisible cracks? What am I finally ready to release, not because I hate it, but because I love myself more? Let those questions sit with you today. Let them stir something wise inside you. Because the clarity you gain this week may not come in the form of answers, but in the courage to stop asking for approval. This is your light, Leo. It's not up for negotiation. It doesn't need permission to shine. Remember, the roar of a lion is not needed every day. Sometimes, the most commanding presence is the one who knows when to listen, when to wait, and when to walk away. And if you've been carrying weight that was never yours to begin with, this is your cue to set it down and walk lighter. Not because the burden disappeared, but because you finally chose yourself. So as you move forward from this message, hold your light like it's sacred. Protect it not out of fear, but out of reverence. And watch how life slowly but surely begins to align around the version of you that no longer begs for love, but becomes it. No longer chases purpose, but lives it. No longer fights to be seen because you now know you are the sun. Thank you for staying with me through every word, every insight, and every space in between. I see your growth. I trust your timing. I honor your path. And if this video spoke to something within you, if you felt even a whisper of, "This is for me," I invite you to share it in the comments below. Let me ask you, what truth did this video awaken in you today? Who or what are you now ready to release with love? And most importantly, what part of your light are you finally ready to stop hiding? If this resonated, I'd love for you to type in the comments. I protect my light, and I choose to awaken. Let that be your affirmation, your activation, your offering to the version of you who no longer wants to dim. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a message from Eternal Mindfulness, a space where astrology isn't just prediction, it's reflection, realignment, and your return to self. Until next time, Leo, honor your light. The universe already is.